Real quick disclaimer, this was recorded before the Super Mario Bros. Wonder Direct was even announced, but I think most of what I say in this video still applies. If I say anything that sounds a little weird, that's the reason. I still think we're getting a September Direct. I think it'll probably be in maybe the second half of September, but I still think we were going to get one. I don't think the Super Mario Bros. Wonder Direct really kind of cancels that out, so let's talk about this September Direct. People, it is that time of year once again. It is September 1st, and if you're a part of the Nintendo speculation community, you know what that means. That means a Nintendo Direct is right around the corner. It's honestly kind of crazy. It doesn't feel like it's been that long since the June Direct, and that June Direct was, in my opinion, incredible. We got a lot of games announced and a lot of release dates, so I guess from my perspective, there's still so much coming out that honestly, like, I'm not itching for this Direct. It's kind of a weird spot for me, where normally every time Nintendo does a full general Direct, there's been such a big gap that it's like, oh, we need this Direct, we need to see it. This time, I'm not really feeling that, so I'm very excited to see what they show. Now, for those that don't know, Nintendo does a Nintendo Direct every single September. I've seen a lot of people, like insiders and stuff, trying to say like, oh, there's gonna be a Direct in September. Yeah, you're not leaking something. They're trying to like build credibility just by saying that, but yes, there is always a Direct in September, so predicting that is like just predicting the sky's blue. It happens every year. Even in the years where, like, there shouldn't have been a Direct, arguably, there was one. Like, in 2020, when there was no Directs that entire year outside of the partner showcases, they even did the Mario Bros. 35th Anniversary Direct in September. It's usually in the first half of the month, but there have been examples of it being a little bit towards the end. So last year, it was on September 13th, 2022. The year before that, it was on September 23rd. The year before that, it was, of course, the Mario Bros. Direct, but also there was a partner showcase on September 17th that year. Going back to 2019, there was one on September 4th. Going back to 2018, there was one on September 13th once again, so they like that September 13th date. This is a constant. It has been true for pretty much as long as Nintendo has done Directs, which means we are absolutely getting some sort of Nintendo Direct in September, which is just very exciting. Like I said, I personally feel like there's a lot going on right now, so I'm not itching for it, but I'm very curious to see what this Direct will announce, and just kind of the state of Nintendo after this Direct, because so many people are expecting a Nintendo Switch 2 announcement in the coming months. I mean, a lot of people still think that's coming out in 2024. I don't think it is, but regardless, this Direct should be pretty telling of whether or not that will happen. I mean, if this Direct has several new game announcements for 2024, then I don't think you can really argue anymore that the Switch 2 is coming out next year. But on the inverse of that, if this Nintendo Direct doesn't really announce much, maybe like 1 or 2 ports and like a new game, then that would be pretty telling, I would say, actually, that there might be something happening at the end of 2024 in terms of new hardware. So it's going to be a very exciting Nintendo Direct, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you want to see in this Nintendo Direct? Now, once it's announced, I'll do a video and go over my full predictions, really write them out. But off the top of my head, I mean, there's a lot of questions about Metroid Prime. I have been saying this for months, and every time there's a Direct since 2018, but I feel it in my bones this time. I feel like they have to show Metroid Prime 4 here. I imagine that's what they would probably end this Direct on, unless they somehow have something bigger. But I think Metroid Prime, it feels right, but also I was saying the same thing in June, you know? So I really, really hope we see what Retro's been cooking with Metroid Prime 4. By the time this Direct airs, it'll have been about 8 months since Metroid Prime Remastered came out, so we should expect something from Metroid Prime. Even if it isn't Prime 4, I guess, we should still be seeing Prime 2 and 3, I'd imagine, come up, even if they're just straight GameCube ports, not remakes like Metroid Prime Remastered was. So Metroid should definitely have a showing in this Direct. Then, of course, there's other stuff like WarioWare and Mario RPG, which I'm sure we'll get new trailers and breakdowns. But then we get into 2024, which is really exciting, because I imagine Dark Moon will get a date here. I think that's a given. I imagine that's probably going to be pretty early next year. And then also the Princess Peach game, which I also did a video on. You should go check out that. I did a great discussion with Caleb about it, kind of just giving out our thoughts and feelings on what that game is, who's developing it, all that stuff. I imagine we'll get a title for that, and maybe a release date, but probably more just like a window, like summer 2024, something like that, right? And then we really get to the unknown. I mean, once again, this goes back to when the Switch 2 is coming out. If I end up being more right and it comes out in 2025, maybe we see a lot of stuff here. But if it's 2024, maybe this will be a pretty light Nintendo Direct in terms of new announcements. So that will shape what announcements are here. But if the Switch 2 does end up being held until 2025, that would probably indicate there will be a lot of stuff announced here. So I think of the Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War remake. I think of games like Tomodachi Life. I think that game just makes a lot of sense to come back on Switch. It's been it's weird it hasn't come back yet, to be honest with you. I'm still surprised it hasn't, because how well it sold on 3DS. I feel like that's one of the last major holdouts from the 3DS era that hasn't made its way over. Be it a port, be it a new game, whatever it is. I imagine, unfortunately, it'd probably be more of like a port slash enhanced remake, kind of like Miitopia was, where, yeah, it's technically the same game. They're just going to call it Tomodachi Life, but it has that new Mii Maker, all that new customization stuff, which would be really exciting. So there's that. There's been rumors of more GameCube remasters. I already mentioned Metroid Prime 2 and 3. I mean, one of those is a Wii game, but also F-Zero GX and Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. I'm personally holding out hope for Luigi's Mansion. I'm actually going to do a video on that, so maybe that could happen here. And then other new stuff. I mean, Nintendo's a very unpredictable company at times when it comes to game announcements and what games they're planning, especially because the Switch is going to be in its 7th year here. We already have most things represented. So if the Switch 2 is still a ways off here, and for those new to the channel, when I say 2025, I mean March. I don't think it's going to be any further than that. But if it's March 2025, you know, that means they have to fill out that schedule next year, but we already have most things covered, you know? So I'll be very curious to see what kind of new things they announce here, what kind of new IP maybe they announce, or just new entries and franchises that we aren't necessarily expecting to come to Switch. I mean, even WarioWare releasing this year is a little unexpected. So stuff like Fire Emblem, stuff like Tomodachi Life, those make sense to me. Ports, GameCube remasters, all of that stuff. Maybe some Wii games. I think, you know, people keep saying Thousand Year Door, which makes sense from a fan perspective, but from a sales perspective, I think Super Paper Mario actually might make more sense. I think something Zelda might be here. You know, it could be Tears of the Kingdom DLC. I'm still kind of conflicted on if I think that will happen. I lean towards yes, because I think from a business standpoint, a DLC for that game makes sense. Why not sell something to what will end up being a 30 million base just for that game? But maybe it'll be something else. I hope for, you know, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, though I don't think they're going to happen on Switch. I hope for a new 2D game, some sort of co-op game. So something Zelda would be really nice, but I think that'd probably be safer next year as an announcement in February and release that holiday. And then hopefully, here's my ultimate hope, I hope we get Weird. I hope we get Rhythm Heaven. I hope we get stuff like that. Honestly, Switch Sports Resort? I think they'd probably save it for the next console at this point. But if you don't know, I kind of went crazy and I 100%ed Switch Sports. It was my most played Switch game in 2022, the year that Pokemon and Xenoblade came out, and Splatoon 3. I put like 250 hours into that game. I kind of hated myself for doing it, but now that I'm 6 months detached from Switch Sports, I'm feeling it. I would actually be hyped for a Switch Sports Resort. And if they announce it here, it'd probably be safe for next year's February Direct. But that could be a solid gap there. That's a 2-year gap. They could do a Switch Sports Resort. So, like I said, I'll do a full video predicting what will be announced in this Direct, like really getting into it. Maybe I'll have a guest on for that. But I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think and what do you want to see appear in this Nintendo Direct? I would love to get a conversation going with you. Nintendo Direct season is my favorite time, always, no matter what. Even though I'm not necessarily itching for it in terms of like, oh, we need a Direct. Like I'm not dying for this Direct. But despite that, I'm still very excited to see what they announce. So, like I said, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. As for when I think it will actually air, let me pull up my handy dandy calendar here, because I think this thing will probably happen on September. Let me see here. It'll either be September 13th and 14th or September 20th and 21st. I think TGS is the weekend of the 22nd, so that could be possible, you know, like little hint. They usually do it the week before TGS. I think last year, Nintendo and Sony, or maybe it was the year before that, they did their events like the same day. Or yeah, it was last year because they did the State of Play and the Nintendo Direct like the day before TGS. So maybe this year it'll be the same thing, which would mean a second half September Direct, or maybe we'll just get it earlier because Nintendo plays by their own rules. And if so, that'd be really exciting. Hell, I mean, it could be September 6th and 7th. They have done first week September Directs before. So it'll be one of those, September 6th or 7th, 13th or 14th, or 20th and 21st. Either way, we don't have to wait long for some more Nintendo goodness. And of course, I'll be covering it all here on the channel. So like I said, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you want to see? What do you hope to see? And when do you think we will see this thing air? Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo coverage, and I will see you all next time. Peace.